Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the PA the FI Way podcast. I'm your host, Kat, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to take a listen to the show and learn how you can better optimize your finances for your future self. If you're subscribed to the show, you may have noticed that there was a bit of a break earlier in this month. I was out of town up to Canada with my family on a trip, and it was a really great time away. And I'm excited to be back and share a little bit more information with you today. In today's episode, I want to talk about the under-celebrated financial milestones that you may have had over the years or that may be coming up for you, and why these under-celebrated small wins, they seemingly appear small, are actually huge for your future. So often with personal finance on our way to financial independence, we can be tempted to only celebrate and recognize those big, giant financial wins. For example, paying off your student loan debt. That is absolutely a wonderful thing to celebrate, a huge financial milestone, right? Or even when you get to a net worth of zero, that can be a really great thing to celebrate as well. Or in the future, when you hit $1 million net worth or 2 million or multi-million-dollar net worth down the road, or maybe you decide to pay off your mortgage in the future, those really large financial wins can be so tempting to only celebrate during those times. However, what gets you to those large wins? It really is stacking these small financial wins over time. So that's what I encourage you to both reflect on your past small financial wins, as well as think about the ones that are coming up for you that you might be tempted to under-celebrate and really not recognize, and instead learn to celebrate those wins for you and use them to build momentum for your future self too. So a few more reasons why under-celebrated wins actually matter for your finances, not only because they build momentum, but they build motivation over time too. And they help you with maintaining that financial discipline over the years. You also can have method benefits. For example, less overwhelm about your finances, feeling less burnt out overall when you actually see that there is progress, and taking the time to focus on that progress from your past self, month to month, year to year, and not only focus on perfection. Because you can ask any millionaire out there or any person that's reached financial independence, and they will share with you that it actually was not about perfection over the years. Many people, including myself, have had several financial mistakes over the years. You can take a listen to my past episode about that. Back in episode 93 is where I shared about my biggest financial mistakes over the years. I encourage you to take a listen, not only to help you feel a little bit better about yourself, but to recognize that absolutely both myself and you included have made financial mistakes over the years. So go ahead, take a listen to that episode and think about some of those mistakes that you've made, recognize them, take ownership of them, but then take the time and discipline to move forward. That's what will set you apart from your friends and family that just aren't trying to build their wealth or get to the point of financial independence for the future. Before I review some different under-celebrated financial wins that you may have had or that your future self will have down the road, I want to talk about how I created a free download for you that is all about helping you track your small financial wins. And it's a milestones tracker. You can find this tracker in the show notes for today's episode. You can click on the link and get your free download. It will help you with tracking your financial wins that can seem initially on the surface to be under-celebrated. So let's first talk about the category of debt and spending wins that you may have had that are under-celebrated. The first is paying off one credit card debt. Think about it over the years, or maybe you are currently in the process of paying off a credit card debt. Which credit card debt did you have? How much was the balance? What discipline did you have to do? What steps did you have to do to get that debt paid off? And did you utilize that momentum to pay off other debt? For example, other credit card debt, other debts that you had maybe on your car or other purchases, or even your student loan debt. How has that helped you over the years too? Or are you still working on paying off other credit cards? what are different things that have helped you over the years too? Another potentially under-celebrated win could be when you make your first extra payment towards your student loans, or if you are wanting to pay off other debt, making that extra payment. It's so tempting to only pay the minimum payment over the years. But if you are trying to really work on getting your debt paid off, especially that debt that has high interest rate, when was that time that you paid off extra? Think about how you felt with that. Did it again help you with momentum going forward too? The next under-celebrated win is when you can reflect back and think about that first time that you actually said no to a purchase that normally would have been an impulsive yes. A lot of people that I have coached over the years have so struggled with wanting to buy things impulsively, especially through Amazon. That can be one of the highest areas to have that temptation. But there's so many other areas in your life where you can have that. Back in episode 128, I talked about from impulse to intention, 10 tips to reduce impulsive spending. So if you haven't yet listened to that episode, go ahead and do that, especially if you're struggling with impulsive spending. This next seemingly small debt and spending win is the first time that you chose to get a used car instead of financing a new one. Whether that financing was purchasing a car, getting a loan, or whether it was even doing a lease on a new car. That was one of my biggest financial mistakes over the years too. But whenever you decide, hey, I'm absolutely okay using a used car that takes me from point A to point B. It's relatively reliable. And even if it does need maintenance and repairs, I understand that I can use my emergency fund or budget for those repairs and maintenance instead of being in this overwhelmingly large monthly car loan or car lease payment that really sucks the money from your budget month to month and really keeps you stuck in the trap of being middle class and wanting to keep up with the Joneses, getting that nice new flashy car. So that first time that you actually decided, hey, I don't need that brand new shiny car, and being okay with that decision for you, that's huge. I know I've shared in past episodes about how I absolutely drive a used car and I just don't care anymore. I used to care as a new grad, certainly. I liked the idea of having not only a reliable car for our Minnesota winters, but also one that was newer and had features and things like that too. Sure, I might miss the heated steering wheel when it's freezing. At the same time, right now, my current self does not value a new car. So think about that first time for you, or maybe that's coming up for you. If you have a decision to make, whether to get a used car or finance a new one, think about which of those options would be best for you. The next small financial win that I want you to reflect on is the first time that you broke the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, week to week and month to month for you and for your family, whether that's you and your spouse or whether you and your kiddos as well. What did that look like for you? How did you feel overall? Back in episode 126, this has been one of my absolute most popular episodes that people have downloaded, people have listened to. It is called Six Figures But Scrimping, 10 Reasons Why High Earners Live Paycheck to Paycheck. And that can really hit home for a lot of us because, again, we often come out of PA school or medical school, nurse practitioner school, those types of things with over 6 figures of student loan debt, but you often are making at least 6 figures, if not more, and that's often the first time in your life. But many new grads tend to live paycheck to paycheck because not only are they having to funnel much of their budget towards their student loans, but they're also inflating their lifestyle. They're getting that brand new car. They're deciding that they want to purchase a house, and especially one that's probably bigger than what they need. And they have delayed gratification over those years. So they decide to go ahead and buy all those things that they've been wanting to buy with their brand new sparkly paycheck. But again, they can fall into that trap of actually living paycheck to paycheck. So when was that first time that you broke that cycle, that you decided, hey, I really don't need this inflated lifestyle. I can be content with a lifestyle that's less inflated, especially when you're paying off that debt. Now, it's one thing once your debt is paid off, you have lots of investments, you are well on your way to financial independence or have reached the point of financial independence. And then you actually need to learn to be able to spend your money with intention and value-based spending. What are those things or experiences that you want to spend your money on? Go ahead and spend on those things. But when you are over 6 figures in debt, that is the time to be diligent, to be wise, to be disciplined, and not be spending your money like crazy. And that leads into the next small win. When was the first time that you actually said no to lifestyle inflation? When you got a raise and or a promotion. Think about it. Once you tend to get a raise, it's usually several $1,000s over the years. And it's so tempting to be like, okay, well, that means I can add on this new monthly payment of this other debt of this thing that I've been eyeing. Or it could mean, hey, that means we can eat out a lot more or do all these other things that we've been wanting to do. Think about when was the first time they actually said no to lifestyle inflation. No, I don't need that right now in my life. Now that we've talked about debt and spending wins, let's transition to talking about some financial system wins. When you are setting your future self up for financial independence, it takes time to learn the different techniques, the different skills that you need to do, but also to implement them. And especially with setting up automations, it takes that time and that energy on the front end, but it really saves you lots of time and energy and future aches and pains down the road by doing that. So the first financial system win that again seems under-celebrated, but if you have done this, huge congrats. And if you have not done this, go ahead and do this, is opening your first high-yield savings account. And then the next step is ensuring that you have an emergency fund within that high-yield savings account. Back in episode 151, I talk about going back to the basics, getting your foundations in place, and about high-yield savings account and emergency funds as well. So go ahead and listen if you haven't taken a listen yet with that. The next one is setting up auto transfers for both savings, whether, again, you're building up that emergency fund, or debt payoff, putting extra payments towards your student loan debt, or investing, getting your different investment accounts set up automatically so you don't have to think about it, so you don't have to be stuck in decision fatigue or analysis paralysis every month when it's time to do that. The next is when you first successfully created a monthly budget and actually stuck to it for yourself and figured out a budget that works well for you. There are lots of different budget options out there, but again, it's always asking yourself, what are your future goals and how can you implement those currently for your month, get those set up and in place as well. The next small win is when you first take the time to figure out what your net worth is, where you figure out all of your debt, actually face your finances, add up all of your debt, figure out where all your debts are, figure out the interest rate on those debts to prioritize the debt payoff, and then also figure out your assets. What do you have invested? Where are all of your investment accounts? Again, that can take time and it might be kind of boring or not really fun to do, but it also could be motivating for you because, again, if you don't know where you are starting from, you don't know where you're going. I have talked to some friends that I know actually that have been surprised at how large their net worth actually is. They have figured out wow, both myself and my spouse, we actually do have a lot of money in our investments, more than what they actually thought. And they were surprised and decided to use that information to not feel so pressured and have this tremendous sense of feeling like they need to earn more, feeling like that they need to work 40 plus hours every single week. And instead use that information to consider cutting back on hours, not feeling pressure to take a high-paying job that maybe isn't a great fit for them overall. Now let's take some time to transition over to talking about some under-celebrated financial milestones that go along with work and your income. The first is the first time that you attempted to negotiate your salary or your benefits, whether that was successful or whether it was not successful. That still is a huge win, even though it seemingly seems small. And that is because negotiation actually takes practice and it builds your confidence over the years. Every time that you negotiate, it helps you for the future. If you haven't already, go ahead and listen to episode 50, where I talk about negotiation, different things to look for in contracts as well. That could be a helpful episode for you too. The next milestone is once you actually understand your benefits package for the first time. So many of us can receive our benefits package and say, I don't know, I don't really understand what this means, or sure, it's probably okay, but you don't actually know, number one, what it means, number two, if it's competitive or not, number three, are there things in that package that can be negotiated or are they standard overall? So when you finally have the first time where you understand the benefits package and again, decide to negotiate if appropriate, that's also a win. The next one is when you decide to switch jobs for better work-life balance or better hours for yourself, not just for more money or not just for a prestigious place to work for, but that is really an under-celebrated milestone too. Now let's transition to investing wins. The first time where you opened your Roth IRA account. So many people that I have worked with over the years through coaching, they struggle with that step. They feel like opening a Roth IRA is intimidating. They don't understand it. And especially if they have to do it back to a Roth IRA, that adds an extra layer of uncertainty and complexity. And that is a huge win when you get it open. And then when you automate those payments to max out for the year as well is great to celebrate when you open is your taxable brokerage account, where you want to add more investments overall too. Or if you do decide to invest a little bit into crypto as well, such as Bitcoin, that could be an option down the road too. Actually celebrating those small wins too. Make sure that you are set up and have your debt paid off. And also make sure that the rest of your tax advantage accounts are set up first before you consider a taxable brokerage account or crypto or things like that in the future. Absolutely. So make sure you have your K, employer match, and eventually maxed out, Roth IRA, HSA, those types of things in place. The next investing win is when you actually invest your first amount of money, whether that's $100, whether that's $1,000. But that is a huge win because, as you know, investing compounds over the years too. So it really takes time and you need to start in order to have that progress and benefit for the future too. Another huge investing win that is so under-celebrated is when you decide to actually not sell your investments when the market dips. When the market even tanks, you hold on tight, you stay the course, you are not tempted to sell, or maybe you are tempted to sell, but you decide not to. You are intentional. You understand that the market does go down, but it will go back up over time. Another under-celebrated win is when you actually understand what index funds are and ETFs are, and you understand how to choose one. You understand which of your options through your employer-sponsored retirement account, such as your 401k, which one of those are low-cost broad-based index funds or ETFs, and which ones would be a good option to invest in for you. Or if you're setting up your Roth IRA and you have all the options, you figure out where you want your Roth IRA through, what type of investments you want, and you can choose that for yourself, man, that's huge. That is very overwhelming and complicated on the surface for a lot of people, but it really isn't that complicated. We tend to overcomplicate financial things. So this is really an under-celebrated win overall. And if you haven't already, go ahead and listen to episode 136 where I talk about index funds and ETFs and help you decide which ones are right for you overall. The next category of wins is mindset and knowledge wins. The first one that seems to be under-celebrated is when you actually take the time to read or listen to your first personal finance book. I will go ahead and include a link to my favorite list of financial independence books for you in the show notes. You can go ahead, review them. If you haven't taken the time to read or listen to them, you can find them on Amazon through there as well. Those books, for right around $20, they have a ton of information. And they tend to talk about different parts of personal finance too. So I encourage you to go ahead and read a book about financial independence if you haven't done so already. The next seemingly small mindset win is when you recognize a limiting belief that you have about money. So many of us tend to think about how we were raised with finances or what we learned from our parents or other family members, mentors, role models over the years. And if you really take the time to try to dissect or dig further into why you believe something, you might find that it really is a limiting belief, and you can challenge yourself about that belief and ask yourself, is it really true? And is this belief serving me? So for example, a lot of people can have the belief that rich people are inherently bad. That is a belief that many people can hold. I don't want to be rich because they tend to do bad things or they tend to not use their finances for good. Well, what if you were a rich person that was a good person and decided to use your wealth for great things, things that you hold near and dear to your heart overall. The next mindset win is when you decide to forgive yourself for those past financial mistakes that we talked about earlier. It's not only important that you recognize those financial mistakes, but again, you need to forgive your past self because you just didn't know that information, or you were naive, you were young, you were listening to people that had your best interest in mind, but really they didn't. And taking the time to forgive yourself helps you move on and helps you do better for the future. The next mindset win is the first time that you had a calm discussion about finances with your spouse or with your partner. Many times having financial discussions can escalate into fights. They're not just actual discussions, they can turn into true fights. So the first time that the two of you were able to have a open, honest, calm discussion about your money is a huge win, even though it can originally be under-celebrated. If you guys have not yet had your first calm discussion, I encourage you to go back and listen to episode 108, where I talk about how to talk to your spouse about money overall. The next financial win is the first time that you recognize that the concept and this idea of wealth does not actually mean income or does not actually equate to only money. There are so many other types of wealth that I've touched on over past episodes, including your physical wealth and health, your mental wealth and health, social wealth and health, all different types. So it really is important that you don't equate, hey, I'm wealthy when I become rich, because that is not the case. You can absolutely be wealthy, even if you are in a lot of debt, in more ways than one. The next area is life and financial harmony wins. When was the first time that you decided to downsize to align your spending with your values? My husband and I are actually currently in this process right now. We are working on going through our house, getting rid of a lot of things, and working on downsizing. And then going forward in the future, we may decide to upsize again. And it really depends upon where you are at with your current phase of life. It's really important that you understand that you can change. You can change your idea, you can change your plans, and that's absolutely okay. You don't have to feel this pressure to stay stuck in this version or this lifestyle that no longer is serving you and that does not align with your current goals. When was the last time that you decided to make a money decision that prioritizes peace over profit? This can relate to so many different things. It can relate to figuring out a job. For example, maybe you decide not to go ahead and pursue that PA role that pays $200,000 because you don't want to be on call as much as that role requires. Or maybe you decide that this type of business or side hustle that you wanted to do actually doesn't bring you peace. And even though you are making money on it, it's something that isn't bringing you peace, so you decide to end that role or transition it, make changes to it as well. Another very under-celebrated win is when you hit the point of coast-fi. That's the point where you have invested aggressively over the years and you technically don't have to invest any more money to be able to retire at traditional retirement age. That can be a really freeing part of your life. You can decide to continue to invest aggressively if you'd like, or you can decide, hey, I don't have to hustle and I don't have to push as hard, so I'm going to actually cut back on my hours, cut back on my work, and take things off of my plate to figure out what truly brings me joy overall. And then finally, the last life and financial harmony win is when you decide to align your spending with what you truly value and care about. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but again, this is something that really is important because it does bring you harmony. It does bring you peace. You don't have that guilt or that shame or that pressure or that inner sense of feeling icky about spending your money on something that you really didn't want to, and that really does not bring you one step closer towards your future goals too. Before I transition and talk about how you can start celebrating these under-celebrated financial wins, I wanted to remind you to go ahead and download that tracker that is absolute free, that helps you track your milestones, that are small wins over the years, and helps you reflect on what they've been or what some of these upcoming financial milestones will be for you and how you want to celebrate them too. So once you've had a small win, you can start the process by taking the time to journal and reflect and figure out how this makes you feel. What are your thoughts about accomplishing this? How do you feel like it's going to help set you up for the future? How can you utilize this progress and momentum for other wins that you're looking at too? You can decide to share these wins with people close to you. Maybe you have a community, for example, PAs on their way to financial independence. Maybe you have close friends or family members or your spouse, and you decide to celebrate with them, share it with them, and maybe encourage others that are a few steps behind you too. You might decide to utilize small rewards for some of these small wins as well. Maybe you decide to go treat yourself to spending some time at a cafe. Maybe you decide to go out for dinner with your spouse as well. And then think about how you can build these into a habit. How can you stack these habits on each other so that they can continue to move the needle forward overall? And remember, it's really important that you focus on progress over perfection. Take the time to look back at the past month, the past 3 months, the past 6 months, the past year or two, and ask yourself, is current present you doing better than past you? And if you are, then that's amazing as well. In addition to downloading your free milestone tracker, I also encourage you to take the time to share which of these under-celebrated financial milestones that you have had recently. Is it one that I've talked about in this episode? Is it a different one that you've had? You can go ahead and leave a comment. You can find the post on social media and share. And I also encourage you to share this episode with another PA, another colleague, another friend or family member as well, and encourage them to really take the time to think about what they have actually accomplished, because it's, again, so tempting to only focus on those big, shiny wins and forget about all of these small wins and these under-celebrated wins that actually move the needle and help you focus on progress over time so your future self can thank you. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to take a listen to this episode today. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here soon.